Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you joined us today. And today we have Dr. Sheri Keffer and Chris Williams joining us. We're going to be answering your calls. We always appreciate when you pick the phone up. I know a lot of you are listening in different times, different ways, but if you need something, you can call us to be on the show. And you can call 1-800-229-3000, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, 1 to 3 Eastern. And we are there for you. So those of you who are listening on the podcast, we love you, but you can also call us when we're live. And so we look forward to hearing from you. But you know, one of the things that we hear a lot of is the difficulty for people to make the right choice. So for example, if you are in a relationship with someone who has sexual addiction, maybe let's say it's you're married to somebody and you're the wife and you think, well, he's got the problem, I don't need to get any help. Or maybe it is, we have heard of a difficult situation and we don't want to make that a bigger deal than it already is. Whatever the thing is that keeps us from doing that right thing, to keep moving, what do we need to do to move forward in seeking help when we think that it's the other person's responsibility?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is understand the fear that we are carrying. What's the fear inside of us that is blocking us from taking action? Now there's times it's not always fear. It could be a sense of injustice. Sheri could speak much deeper into this, but I'm oftentimes letting betrayed partners know this. It is absolutely 100% not fair what has happened to you. And it's even not fair that you now have to go do work and do something about it. But the reality is only you can. And so it is 100% responsibility of what you now do with this. And again, I want to keep this balance of both compassion and responsibility in balance. That we have compassion for those of us who have been abused. And now the work that we have to do to recover and regain health and continue our growth process in the midst of all of that. And that's a real, I want to say that's a real tension. But for those that are screaming, it's not fair, I want to say, yes, it's not fair. But I want to invite you into something more, something better, something different.
Yeah, one of the coping strategies, in addition to fear, is denial. It's the secret we keep from ourselves. Denial looks like minimizing, ignoring, avoiding it, spiritualizing. Some of us spiritualize, and that's how we stay in denial. It's telling ourselves something that isn't true, that it's not that big of a deal. And I got to say something. The most damage I see that's done is when somebody is out of control in their behavior, like let's just say a sex addict that's acting out, and the betrayed partner is so wounded and she's like, get help. I don't need to do anything. But do you realize by not doing anything to deal with your PTSD and minimizing what's going on, there is a cesspool of harm that is happening in your home.
Yeah.
That's impacting your kids, that's impacting your relationship, that's enabling acting out to move from porn to real people. We can't sit and do nothing. If we do, we are unknowingly complicit to the continued acting out that's going on. And so we have to take the bull by the horns. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's what we have to do.
That's good.
Agreed. We'll be right back.
We all have struggled with weight problems all our lives. This involves not only the health side of it, but the spiritual side of it.
If you're ready to begin a comprehensive plan that provides freedom in every area of your life, New Life's Lose It for Life online intensive can help. This online intensive features Zoom sessions presented by Steve Arterburn and Elena Al-Sharu on Saturday, January 27th, plus 4 small group process sessions facilitated by a credentialed New Life Network counselor.
Of all the things, the best part for me was the small group time.
If you're finally ready to stop going from diet to diet and begin a comprehensive plan that addresses the psychological, emotional, and spiritual aspects of a healthy lifestyle, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or go to newlife.com.
It is a life change. It is not a diet. It is not just a plan. It is a life change.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, it's a new year, so that means that New Life has a whole calendar of intensives for you to take that next step in your own healing process. You know, we talked about that in the opening, is do what you need to do your work, to do your healing. You are valuable. You are worth it. And we want to help you. We want to be along on that journey with you. You can go to newlife.com or you can go to 1-800-NEW-LIFE and we will talk with you about all of the options that we have. Right now, we're going to talk with Ruth, who's calling us from Oklahoma City and listens on the app. You can listen on the app and you can download it wherever you get your app. Hi, Ruth. We're glad you called. How can we help you today?
Thank you. I appreciate you taking my call. Yes. My husband and I have been married 42 years, and we're both Christians. We shared our faith in Christ with our kids, and when they were young, they accepted Christ. And at times when they understood about baptism, they decided to make a public profession of faith. But all 3 of ours have turned away from God, and they've really pushed away from us. And right now, we really don't have family that want to spend time with us, and I wonder how you deal with the grief of loss of the relationship. You know, we've talked to counselors before. The last time he said, yes, it's difficult. You know, you have to grieve it. You need to move on and just find things that you enjoy doing. But the holidays are difficult because I always tried to make them special with our family, and birthdays, you know, I always tried to make each, birthday special, but
Sure.
we don't have that. And we're also dealing with mental illness on both sides of the family, and our children, I feel, are having issues. And one of them, she's bipolar, and she tried to commit suicide. It's been a while, but she hasn't spoken to us in 8 years, and I just, I pray for them. We both pray for them every day, but there's just such a loss of relationship. I wonder, how do you deal with that?
Can I ask,
certainly.
why are they estranged from you guys? Like, have they given you reason why they are not in communication or relationship with you?
And how old are they, just so we know? Just what are we talking about?
We're going to be a range of 36 to 40.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in reasons.
Yeah. No, that's good.
That's okay. No, not at all. I believe we're dealing with mental illness.
But hold on. Ruth. What have they said? What have they told you?
She said that she was told by a man that she's involved with that if we ever try to talk to her about Jesus, to cut us off. He's from Pakistan, he's Muslim, and she met him online, and they were going to get married, but COVID hit, and they weren't able to do that. So she just said that it's because we mentioned Jesus, and I think she was just trying.
And then for your, you have 3 kids, right? What about the other 2?
Yeah. Well, we went for counseling with one of them, and he and his wife, and they accused us of being like abusers. They slandered us, and we met with them several times, but my husband told them, there's not anything more we can do here. And what the accusations were, we never did. And I feel peace that God knows what happened, but I just think that they're just sick and they're saying things that aren't true, and there's nothing I can do about that.
And is it there's one other child here? What reason did they give you?
I asked him specifically, how come you went 6 years without speaking to me? And he said, oh, I've moved on, and that's something different. I've moved on, and he turned his back on me and walked away. And so I don't think he knows why. He's not really telling me why. And they've each had anxiety, depression, and I just think that a lot of it is coming from inside of them. I grew up with a mother that was bipolar, and I know the one child was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality, and PTSD. And so we're dealing with mental illness is what we're dealing with.
Can I risk here with you? Ruth, thank you for calling today, first off, and this must be so confusing. But I'm going to take a different look at it. I'm going to maybe say something different that hasn't been said before, and it might be troublesome and it might be relieving, but I don't know. I love that we got to listen. We didn't say a peep for 3 or 4 minutes. And in that period of time, you let us know that you're Christian. You told us that your children were baptized. You also mentioned that somebody told your daughter not to, to turn away if you mentioned Jesus. And I am wondering if there isn't a heightened spirituality in you and your husband's relationship. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but there's a phrase that says you're so spiritually minded that you're not earthly good. And I'm wondering if because of the trauma that you grew up with a bipolar mom and the chaos that you live with for decades, if part of how you have grounded yourself is to actually hold on to God and spiritual principles for everything you're worth, because that was the only thing that seemed to bring order into chaos and fear and hurt and pain. But what can happen is the pendulum can swing so far that we become uber spiritual or religious, or our language is spiritualized and it's not relatable.
It takes us out of reality instead of deeper into it.
I hear what you're saying. I became a Christian in my 20s, and I went through abuse. I even shared some with my kids, hoping they'd be willing to talk to me at some point if they wanted. But I didn't know Christ until November of '79, and I have I pray and I do ask God each day to guide me and help me to know how to live this life, because it isn't easy.
Right, but you know what? If I was working with you and your family, you know what I would ask? I would say, let's have a 20-minute conversation where you don't mention anything spiritual. Nothing of God, nothing Jesus, no prayer, no religious words, no spiritual words. And I wonder what we would talk about. I
would wonder. Family is very, very important to me.
I know
How
that.
do you deal with the loss of it?
Well, but you're not even hearing me, my dear. I'm trying to restructure the way that you talk, live, move, and are in relationships. When parents are highly religious, their kids don't know how to relate. They don't know how to have normal conversations about stuff they're struggling with. They go underground, they hide, they stop talking, they push away, they roll their eyes, they disconnect.
Yeah.
And all those things you will see them doing, and the parents are really confused. Like, I'm just here trying to love you. I'm trying to point you in the right direction. And I'm like, stop. You are too spiritually minded that you're not any earthly good. You're not being a parent that has to live with tension and have conversations that are uncomfortable and accept people when they're not doing what you want them to do. But some people, and I get this because we've grown up with so much chaos, our faith becomes a single narrow lane. But it just becomes too narrow. Even so, think about Jesus. Oh my goodness, with the Pharisees, they wanted to kill him because he was loving on lepers. He had a motley crew of 12 people, tax gatherer. He even had somebody who killed him. He had Judas. He hung up with Judas. I mean, Jesus was always on the front line of loving people that were wounded and broken, and he didn't try to sit there and always talk religious. Like the movie Chosen has been really, I don't know if you like it or not, but for me it's been powerful, the series, because I get to see kind of this fleshy Jesus that would be loving me normally. So
Well, and you know what though, Sheri, I'm also thinking, Ruth, that you're going right towards the grieving. Like, how do I let go of this, as opposed to how do I connect with them? And there is the sadness, but to your point, Sheri, that the connection may have been missing all along. We've talked to parents before about the things that separate us in our relationships with our adults, sons and daughters. And I'm curious, before we go back to you, Chris or Sheri, Ruth, how long has this separation been? You mentioned their ages 36 to 40, but was it just recently that this happened, or was it when they left the house? Like, when did this separation begin?
No, this has been going on for 8 years.
Yeah.
And
was it around the suicide?
it was prior to that.
Okay.
It was prior to that.
So Ruth, I'm going to jump in. So my heart breaks for you. One of the things, as Sheri was pointing to, that I want to reaffirm, is that when our world becomes unsafe, we try to create a different world. The fancy word for that is disassociation. A spiritual world is one of the ways in which we can do that. M. Scott Peck had this line. He said, mental illness is a radical commitment to escape reality. Later on, Patrick Carnes adopted that for addiction. Addiction is a radical commitment to escape reality. And this over-spiritualization can get really confusing because we're called to follow Christ with, love God with our heart, mind, and soul and strength, the whole thing. But the difference here is reality. As Sheri was alluding to, is that Jesus was a Lord of reality, meaning he drove straight into the face of reality.
Love it.
Rather than trying to escape it.
Right.
And so too much of our spiritual life can try and remove us from reality when in fact God wants to drive us into reality. I want to invite you, Ruth, to go back and do your work on the pain and the fear and the chaos you're carrying on inside of you as a result of your trauma and your abuse.
Well, you know what? I have done a lot of counseling with that.
Okay, good.
And I feel like that I have been a survivor of abuse, and I don't
For sure.
really, know. And then we got involved in NAMI when we were living in a different location.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we got to hear other families that went through similar things that we have, and it makes you feel less like a Lone Ranger. But it also makes you realize that everybody goes through.
Well, let me make a really important point. We have to respect the mental illness here. We have to respect the PTSD that's going on. But inside of all of us is a comfort magnet, is a huge magnet that is going to drive us to that which feels in control, that which feels comfortable. Now, for some of us, those are dangerous things. But safe relationship and safe people draw the other side of that magnet. And so that's what I'm calling you into. It's just, I don't know if this is going to have an impact on your children, but I do know it'll have an impact on your relationships. Is going into the reality of what do I need to do to become a safer person that will have a magnet for other people's comfort.
I love that. Thank you, Ruth. We'll be right back after this.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I ended up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. You know, I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps towards your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're so glad you're with us. We're also glad that today our second episode of our Every Man's Battle podcast is out, and every Monday we'll drop a new episode, and it features JJ West, who's our speaker both at Every Man's Battle and at Intimacy and Marriage, along with Doug Barnes, who has been leading the Every Man's Battle groups for many years, and their conversations will be insightful, encouraging, and a great companion as whether you have gone to Every Man's Battle or maybe you need to go, or maybe you just are curious about that. But I just want you to know that it's out there. We're excited for the conversations that we will be having.
And Becky, if I could add
Chris.
one thing, because I think this is appropriate to what we were just talking about with Ruth. Those two gentlemen will not just talk about what it means to walk out your faith in recovery and what addiction does, but the real conversations. They get into the nitty-gritty. And I oftentimes say this, especially in addiction. If the devil is in the details, so is God. So you better get in the details.
Yes.
And so that's some of the things that they do that help. And quite honestly, years and years ago, when I was struggling deep in my addiction, it was someone that got into the details with me that broke me out of my denial, that said, no, I can't deny that. I can't, that's real, that's real, that's real. And so it was just super helpful. And that's where I think this podcast can be super helpful for many, many people.
I love that. I love that.
And if I can add one more thing, just thinking of Ruth, we want to make sure to send her a resource, right? So what would that be? But in that spiritualizing, what can happen is we create a false self. What feels like a false self to others, and it's not attachable. So if that's strung some chord, if you tend to be somebody that hides behind religiosity or spiritual language or recovery language, we were just talking about that, any kind of that, if it's in excess, is really a false self to protect you from feeling your own pain and feelings
That's so good,
about
Sheri,
the trouble that you're having with other relationships. So
I think Healing is a Choice would be the perfect book.
Perfect.
And we'll send that to you,
Perfect.
Ruth, because it will address the lies that we believe that keep us stuck, and then the healing process that needs to take place. We're going to go back to the calls, and you can call us 1-800-229-3000. We're going to talk with Major, who has called us from Mississippi and listens on the podcast. You can too. We just talked about the Every Man's Battle podcast, but New Life Live is available wherever you get the podcasts. So, Major, thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. I do want to compliment Sheri on the book, Intimate Deception. Believe it or not, yes, I am reading the book.
good for
Because
you.
I thought
Great
that
job.
I could benefit from it. And secondly, as I was listening to the previous caller, I loved what Sheri said about too spiritually minded and no earthly good. Because back about 11 months ago, when my wife decided that it was time for us to separate, she wrote in her email that our spirituality is in two different levels. And she said, your extreme spirituality is at a level not in reality of real everyday life experiences. She said, we are to be his servants in a way others can relate to us, not to be of a higher, unreachable, unattainable level that others don't even understand or want to be around. And so I appreciate you guys reminding me of that today. But the reason for my call is it's been 11 months since my wife and I have been separated. She asked me at the onset that she said, please don't contact me. I will contact you when I'm ready to talk or begin talking. And so here we are 11 months later, and there has not been any conversation between the two of us about our marriage, and we've been married 31 plus years. And so two nights ago, I received an email from her, and I can read the email if you'd like. It's short, but basically she was saying that she's made a decision to dissolve our marriage and go our separate ways. And so I was just kind of wondering if you guys had any suggestion on how I could respond to her email, because for a few years, ever before we separated, I've been asking her to join me to attend a Hope Restored intensive through Focus on the Family. And I recognize that New Life Ministry has something similar, but just for the sake of argument, that's what I've been asking her to attend, because at the time I was more familiar with what they had to offer, and she never wanted to. She never wanted to go, and so periodically I'd ask her again, and she'd say, "Well, let me think about it." And so last January was the last time I brought it up to her, and she said, well, maybe we can go this summer. Of course, we were separated during that time. So I was just curious, how would you guys recommend I respond to her email?
Let me ask.
Major,
we're going to ask a question when you come back, because I'm on a cliffhanger with you, Major. I feel like there's an elephant in the room that I don't know about yet. But we need to know that. Yeah.
That's it. We're glad you called, Major. We'll get further into the details. If you need help, you can call us. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We are there for you. We want to help you. We'll be right back.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We were on a cliffhanger. We were talking to Major, and he and his wife have been separated 11 months with no or very, very, very minimal contact. And Sheri, I think we'll start with you, and we'll get somewhere. We'll get some details and find out more.
Yeah, I mean, I love your teachability, Major. I can hear that. Even hearing the conversation that happened right before this call, go you for making those internal connections. But you did leave me, no pun intended, with a major cliffhanger, because I'm wondering, so why are you reading my book, Intimate Deception, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Betrayal?
Well, I'm reading your book because about 2 years ago or more, I started having reoccurring thoughts, and they were pretty much running my life. And the reoccurring thoughts were that my wife was being unfaithful to me. Now, I shared this with her, and she said, well, it's not true. We'll pray about it, and, you just have to work through it. But, I tried, but I was unable to break free from those reoccurring thoughts. And so that was the subject of of a meeting that we had with another couple that really was, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back. Because after that meeting, whereby I was honest with all three of them, what those recurring thoughts were and who was involved in those recurring thoughts. And I did so because I went to them because I wanted their help, because I was going through something that I could not battle myself. And I figured that if I was honest with them, then I would have better success at not allowing those reoccurring thoughts to interfere with our respective relationships.
Major, can I ask a follow-up question? Were those thoughts ever affirmed with evidence or things that you saw? Were your thoughts affirmed with your eyes, your ears, or any other thing?
Well, as I mentioned, we've been married for over 31 years, and about 2 years ago, maybe 3, my wife was telling me that, I'd like to go to a football game party. And I said, well, sure. And so it was just a group of friends that she knew. But later on, after a football season, maybe into the next football season, we were talking about that. And I said, well, who goes to these football parties? And she started telling me. And she said, well, so-and-so. And sometimes it's just me and Ralph. And I'm like, you and Ralph? You mean there are times when you go to the football party at Ralph's house and it's just the two of you there? Well, yeah, but you said I could go.
Wow.
And I said, well, that's true, but I would have never signed on to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
I don't think that's good for our marriage. And she said, well, sometimes when the party is over, well, then I'll stick around because nobody else does, and I'll help Ralph clean up the house. And I'd say, well, I don't like that either, because to me, it's Ralph's party, and if no one else wants to stick around to help him, I don't feel comfortable with you wanting to do that. And so that was one of the things that put a crack in the trust that I had for my wife for, 29 plus years.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say, Major, that is not a crack. That was you intuiting, your body intuiting, asking very thoughtful questions to look at a chasm that had been created because of her own self-deception. She was looking for a permission slip from you to hang out with Ralph. And she was not being honest with you. You said, I'm not okay with that. But it was that tip of the iceberg that has made you wonder and feel uncomfortable. And, God created us with intuition and a mind. And oftentimes when I'm sitting with betrayed partners and we put together what's called a discovery timeline, like, when did you find out? Kind of like Chris asked a really good question, like unpack that a little bit. And you start to put those tips of the iceberg together, you realize that there's more.
It starts unraveling.
Instead of them owning it, instead of them saying, hey, I'm struggling in our marriage, I have a temptation to hang out with Ralph, I want to bring it to you because I'm concerned about our marriage and I don't think it's healthy. Can we get some help? That's not how it goes down. It just goes deeper underground. And you only have these little crumbs on the surface. And so, oftentimes I encourage betrayed partners, to go on a truth-seeking mission. If somebody is trying to lie and cover up, there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out what's true.
Yeah. And Major, this is something that, because, my antenna was going up because, why is she avoiding and avoiding and avoiding, I mean, many people, especially wives, would love for their husbands to work on their marriage and attend a great workshop like, we or Focus on the Family would offer. And so usually avoidance comes with hiding, and hiding comes with something underneath the surface that they don't want somebody to see. Your intuition is spiked. And to Sheri's point, to say that, hey, I'm concerned about this this time that you're spending with Ralph, and her response wasn't even, oh, yeah, I now see that.
Exactly.
Or tell me more about your concern. Let's address this issue.
Exactly.
If this is an issue for you, I want to make it an issue for me.
She put it on
Or
you.
even...
And that's what I want to point
she
out.
put it on
that's
you,
what I
which
want
is
to point out,
gaslighting.
is that
She
she
said it's
gaslit
okay.
and flipped it to you and said, you said yes to this when you didn't say yes to it.
There you go. There you go. We're all excited about it, Major, because there are red flags, and we want to support you in this isolation.
Yes.
You know, relationships require you to show up, and you have done that. And the response from her has been to shut you down, and now you know why. But where do we go from here, you guys? Like, what options does he have?
Well, this is really tough, because she wants to dissolve the marriage, correct? And
That's what she said in the email. Yes.
And she's without communication for the last 11 months.
Correct.
Okay, Major.
Even though I want to point out that when this happened, she mentioned that I was too controlling and that I was
jealous
and things like this. But I decided I would go get help. So I got a psychiatrist. It was diagnosed that I had OCD.
Okay.
And depression. And so since then, I've been seeing a psychiatrist.
That's
I've
great.
been medicated for that,
Okay,
and
so
I've also been seeing a family counsel.
Okay.
And she has not wanted to participate in any of that.
Okay, so here your wife is communicating something clearly to you, and it's not the email. It's that she has abandoned you. I know this is painful, but when you started sniffing out an inappropriate relationship, then she cut bait. And then she left you 11 months of blank pages to write bad stories on. And I want there's this line in Shark Tank that says this. Once the proposal is made and the shark does not like what they hear, they say, and for those reasons, I'm out. And I would love for you to look at the evidence and be able to say, for those reasons, I'm not going to chase something that is painful. I'm not going to pursue something that is rejecting. I'm going to do something for me and keep on my work and going forward with what I need to heal and to grow and to become back to myself.
And there's one
It's
challenge,
tough.
Major, that comes with OCD, is it's really hard for your brain to let go.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll be back right after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We don't normally go this long with a caller, but Major, we want to hear you. We hear the pain that you've been going through, and Chris and Sheri, let's help him in this time.
Well, I just want to point out one thing before I hand this over to Sheri's great wisdom, is that, Major, what I want you to be able to do is recognize that, okay, you have struggled with depression, you have struggled with OCD, but you need to separate that out from your wife's behavior. Those are two totally different things. Many people can remain married and even intimate and close and flourishing with their partner who may struggle with a mental health issue. But that's no justification for abandonment. That's no justification for an affair. It's no justification to basically ghost you. And so I just want you to be able to separate those two things out.
Good point. Sheri?
That was so good, Chris. I think the second thing, I would have you read the chapter, if you haven't gotten there already. It's my chapter called Gaslighting, Deception, and Blame. Oh, my. Because I think it's going to make a lot of sense to you, and it's also going to make sense to your brain when you look at all the micro behaviors that your wife has done and how she's hidden what she's doing and pinned it on you. And that's part of what somebody who is acting out, having a sexual affair, will do instead of just taking ownership of it. And then, just to my point, I love people with OCD brains. I don't know. I have an affinity for you all because I think it's an incredibly brilliant, smart brains. People that I work with OCD are judges, they're CPAs, they're nurses, doctors, research engineers. They're just brilliant people. You're not your brain. You have a brain that has OCD. But one of the things that can happen with betrayal trauma is the brain can get hung up and it can get stuck in complicated bereavement because it wants to fight. Because you said, well, I went and got help, right? I'm working on myself. I'm fixing myself. But it's going to leave you with those blank pages that Chris talked about. The blank pages is you don't get to talk with her about what happened in those 11 months and about Ralph and all that stuff. So it leaves you hanging. And OCD brains hate to be hanging. They need facts to conclude and finish. So continue to work with your family therapist, your psychiatrist. You're on a good path, but grief is where you need to go. Feel.
And I know I already offered this to the previous caller, but I think Healing is a Choice is also another book. I know he's reading yours, Sheri.
But let's send him that one.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I do. Gosh, Major, we're so glad that you called. If you need another therapist, if it's not working out, you just stay on and we'll get you connected. Maybe even a group. I wonder sometimes when we're so isolated, if we realize the power of the group, and we're just so grateful that you call. We'll be praying for your situation and pray for clarity as well. One of the things, we've been around 35 years here at New Life Live, and we've had some great calls over the years that it's amazing that we can still learn from. And so we are going to feature a call now from Steve and John. Terry, why don't you go ahead and cue that up?
Yvette from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listens on WORD. Hi, Yvette. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. What's going on in your life today?
Well, I was just thinking, I thought, I'm saved and I do truly love the Lord, and my son is a wonderful little boy, and his father is not in this life. I've been praying for that situation, but nothing really hasn't been taking place. So I started praying for maybe I should pray for a positive Christian saved person to come into to our lives, and I don't seem to be meeting that. I'm meeting the opposite.
You mean guys to date?
Yes.
Yvette, I would go 180 degrees away from the direction you're going. I think you're going the wrong way.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because you're right in that your boy. How old's the boy?
He's 3.
The boy needs a dad. He really needs a dad. But you don't get it from dating relationships. That's the worst place in the world, because these guys, they might even be good guys, but it's just dating itself. Yvette, a guy goes in, you date for a few weeks, a few months. The kid gets attached because he's looking for a father figure. Right. He loves the guy. He looks forward to him. Then you guys break up, and his heart's broken again. His heart's already been broken by his dad. So you can date. But number one, don't introduce him to the men. Keep your dating life separate. Okay. But number two, bring non-dating men into your boy's life yesterday. Start looking at uncles and cousins and neighbors and pastors and people that are good and loving, and just say, can you spend some time, a couple times a week with my son? He needs a male around him. So then you're okay because you're putting your life back together thing, but your son has someone like him that he can look up to.
Okay.
Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he only has a big sister.
I know, but there's an organization called Big Brother. You go to your church and you just write a letter to the pastor. My son needs some male influence here, and there just may be the right person waiting to be his hero. So, I'm glad you called.
Let's do that little challenge, Steve. All of y'all that have some time that feel that kind of call,
right?
Call around to your church or Big Brother and say, I want to volunteer.
Yeah.
It literally can save a kid's future.
That's right. So, and let's pray for this boy, and I'm going to send her a copy of 100 Days of Prayer. And really, when you think about it, what more valuable thing could you have 100 days of?
Nothing.
I mean, really, it's just ought to be part of life, and this will really help you with your prayer habit. You don't have to be a genius to do it.
I do something kind of obsessive now about this, Steve.
What do you do?
On my little PDA iPhone thing,
mm-hmm.
I have a little note thing that I look at what I got to do the day, who to call,
right.
And there's a little section that just says values, and if I open it up, it just says the 6 biggest values in my life. So it always reminds me, no matter how busy or how many problems there are, and God's number one. And it's kind of like, okay, you get back the 30,000 view above sea level when you go back into what's important.
Right. There was a time in my life, if I had that, I would have clicked on values. Chocolate cake, ice cream. Really, that was what I valued. And I was a big old fat guy because of it.
Oh my goodness, it's classic. But you know what though? It's funny because I always say that I take notes, and Chris, I saw you were writing down as well as I was the 6 biggest values of my life. John's got that in his phone. And one of the things I thought of though in the question, Chris, your little league coaching and your baseball teams.
Yeah.
You're like a father figure to those men, those little men.
Listen, this comes actually out of my own wounding. It's that I was the kid in Little League without a father around. And so when I'm coaching, and don't get me wrong, I'm pretty competitive, and I coach for team success and player success, but I'm really, really paying attention to the kids who are going through a tough time. And if I can just be one adult who shows up in their life that says, I see you.
Wow, Chris.
I value you. I like you. And I think you're pretty fantastic, regardless of your behavior and what's going on. If I can just be one person and I'm going to get at least 4 months with you, 3 to 4 times a week to be able to do that, man, job done. That's success to me.
Everyone wants you now to be around their kid.
We're all moving to California.
Can you tell my own kids that?
Yeah, exactly. Daddy, I don't like you.
They're not honored in their own hometown, Chris. You know that. Well, we're so grateful that you listened today. That I hope something that we said will encourage you along your way. Thank you, Sheri. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your wisdom so much. And thank you, listeners. If we can do anything for you, please call us. We will see you next time here on New Life Live.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you. but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.